Well, hello again. Welcome to another session of the 18th annual Transforming the Teaching and Learning Environment Virtual Conference. I'm Bob Hales, if you don't know by now, and I'm your moderator. Don't forget that this year we're sponsored by the Journal of Educators Online, a refereed publication that has some really great articles that's stretching back to, I think it's 2004. So I think you can find some things in there of interest to you all. Just go to thejeo.com. We have with us today Amber Thompson. She's the program director for the Engineering Technology Technical Operations Distance Program at Western Carolina University. He's also an associate professor of practice, has been teaching in higher ed for 22 years. He started when you're like, what, 12 years old? Yeah.
Exactly.
Uh, One of the things she really tries to focus on is bridging the gap between education and industry through customized training and research. She's going to talk to us, as the slide says, embracing artificial intelligence and distance learning assignments. So Amber, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you, Bob. So welcome everyone. This is some research that I did within one of my classes. I also teach sociology. So bridging the gap between people and technology and industry and what we're doing in education and everything just crosses over. A few years back I did some research with another colleague, and that prompted me to go back and um, get another degree in sociology, which helped me to create this course that I currently am teaching, which generated this research for me, or helped me gather this research. So how it came along, and I'm going to tell my age here, and I'm sure if you're like me, AI is everywhere, and you're almost sick of hearing about it and seeing about it. But as an educator, what do we do? And I teach dual enrollment classes, so I've had some high school students, and I teach multi-generational classes where, I've had an 85-year-old student in with 18-year-old students, and so how do you kind of embrace this new technology and still be able to teach these different, I guess, technology based folks where, these 18-year-olds are very savvy, and maybe the older generations are not so savvy. But I can remember back whenever, I started college 30 something years ago, and the internet came on board. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is some of the same arguments in education during that time are presented today. I can remember the exact, same thing that my instructors would say. And I find myself saying some of those things to my students now. So when we look at it as just a technology or a tool, then it doesn't get so overwhelming. And that's kind of what I'm looking at today, or discussing today with you guys. So AI, of course, we know that it can be an adapted learning platform. It can tutor our students. It is there when we are not. So if we understand this and use it as a tool rather than try to fight against it, and I'll give you an example. We're the College of Engineering and Technology. We should be on top of this, right? Well, we were not. And another thing that kind of led into my research to, present today and present in the past at my university is we were in a faculty meeting, It was last spring, so it, not years ago, just last spring in 2025, and it was our startup meeting for the spring semester. And we had faculty, and these are engineering instructors that should be tech savvy, and we were all in there, and they're like, what are we going to do about AI? How are we going to keep it out of our classrooms? Because before it was, maybe in an English classroom where people were using it to write a paper, or a history class, they're using it to look up facts. Well, now AI will do some very technical type aspects, like write G code and M code for CNC machines and those kinds of things. So we were all in there, and I just remember one of my colleagues' faces where he just put his hands on his head. He's like, "What are we going to do?" And he was so stressed out and worried about it. And I thought, there's probably a lot of folks that are thinking and feeling this way. And at the time, we were not really doing anything at Western, not anything conglomerately within the university. There are a few people doing AI things in their classroom, or, using it independently. But even our IT folks said, we're not going to make students log into these outside apps and have them use it in our classes. We want them only to use the technology that we are supplying as a college. So we weren't even supposed to ask students to log into these platforms. So that prompted me to do a little research on what other universities were doing. And just looking into it, some universities were actually implementing it into their curriculum. Some universities developed whole entire programs around it, but it was just a very few at this time. And I feel like just in the last 6 months, these programs have probably doubled or even tripled. But what were we doing? The question was, what were we doing at Western Carolina to help our students understand AI as a tool and not so much as the end all? And how can we promote the transparency that we're actually, if they did use it on a paper, how can they cite that and say, hey, this paper was helped, or AI helped write this paper? What did that look like in our syllabi? What were the rules? We needed rules. We needed to understand how we could use this instead of fight against it. So in my research, I came across a survey that I did not develop. It was developed, I think it was by the University of California. But whenever I looked at this, it was 86%, and maybe that's more now, but at the time, and this was last spring, 86% of the college students were using some type of AI for their studies, but the college faculty were not. We were only using a little bit less than that. So let's see, let me go back. I don't remember the exact number now. I'm thinking it was around 30-something%, but we just weren't using it as much as the students were using it. So it was almost like the students had a little bit of a leg up. And I thought, well, wonder what Western Carolina students are doing. And I used the same survey, and there's a link here, and I can share this if anybody wants the presentation, I can share these links with you. But that survey had several different questions. So here's the questions. And they were all, related to how the student felt about AI, what kind of AI that they use, if they were comfortable, and that kind of thing. So this is a little bit of an overview, but I've got it broke down by question. And the reason why I bring up the sociology part is I started teaching a technology and society class. I developed it for Western Carolina University. And in this class, not only do the engineering students, not only can they take it, but every other major in the university can take this too. So I had a really good population of students with different majors, computer science, nursing, criminal justice, engineering, communications, and, so forth down here. So I think that's like 11 or 12 different majors of students taking this one class. And so it gave us a good picture of what was actually going on with our students. So of course, the first question was the AI technology is too complex for me to grasp. And 26, so a quarter of these students thought that was true. And then as we go, I regularly follow the news and updates about AI. Not really, about 50%, but more false than true. Regularly discuss AI topics with friends, family, or classmates. So they discussed it, maybe not used it. I have attended workshops or seminars on AI. So if we look back, and so there's this discussion going on, but who is teaching students how to properly use AI? How to sift out information that may or may not be true. How to write good prompts to get the information that they need, and who's teaching them how to use this as a tool. So what it tells me that students are not seeking training on their own. And what that means for us as faculty is we need to be the ones to train them. So this was a little bit of an eye-opener, especially, when we're thinking about students in technical programs. So another question, I have seen opportunities to learn more about AI around the campus, and this was about 50%. So as a university, we were probably not doing a good job in promoting AI or having any type of training or anything with AI, actually. I regularly use AI-powered tools or applications in my studies. So this was 58% true. So it's telling us that students are using the technology in which they may or may not have been properly trained to use. And then AI-powered tools are essential for my academic success. So think about this. They're using it, but do they think it's essential for them to do well in academics? And only 11% said this was true. So 89% say this is false. Is this a true perception of the reality of their future? And what I'm getting at here, and there's some more questions in this survey that kind of get at the same thing, is if they're in some type of industry where AI will be heavily used, and we're not training them to use AI, and they're not getting the proper education that they need to get when they go out into that industry, are they really ready? So, on the other end of that, how many industries actually use AI? Probably every one of them. And you just really don't know the extent yet and how that's going to look in the future. Another question, I feel that it is necessary to verify the validity and accuracy of the responses that AI generate. So I was really proud to see this. 100% of them said that was true. AI has positively affected my learning experience at WCU. So let's think about that. 32 said it was false. Why would that be? Why would AI be a negative effect? If it's false, then there must have been a negative effect. So that could be that, maybe instructors caught a student using AI, or, you know, maybe the student got the wrong answer using AI. So, you know, that was a point of further research that we could look at. AI has negatively affected my learning experience. So 26% said that it was true. So if we look at that, that's kind of a question that flip-flops on them, but it's consistent. Okay, we got 32% false and then 26 true. So that's pretty consistent that they're reading and doing a good job understanding this survey. So I use AI outside of my classwork. 95% said that was true. 5% said that was false. I'm comfortable submitting a prompt to AI like ChatGPT. 100% said that was false. So think about that. And it goes along with their consistency of their feelings towards AI, but also we're not doing a very good job training these folks to be comfortable with the tool. AI can contribute positively to social issues. They were on the line about that one. I worry about AI's impact on personal privacy. So that was 100% of students thought that was a point of contention. I would feel embarrassed if someone found out that I used AI for schoolwork, and this was true. So, you know, AI had this negative connotation because we were trying to keep it out of our classes. Now, you know, I feel like as educators, we should embrace it and lead it into our classes. And as we go, I'll have some strategies for that, and I'll share with you guys. AI algorithms should be more transparent, 100% true on that. AI technology can enhance creativity and innovation, and they thought that this was more true than false. I trust AI algorithms to provide accurate information, and you can see the majority thought that was false. The ethical use of AI is a major concern for me, and they thought that was true. And AI has the potential to reduce human bias, and 63% thought that was true, and 37% thought that was false. And you know, that there's a lot of points of debate on that right now. I have concerns about AI's impact on job security. So 21% thought this was false, that they don't have a concern, and 79% thought that was true. So going back to those AI tools that are essential for academic success, if we teach students to use AI as a tool, then that can make them more marketable in the industry, and they'll know more about it, because, you know, we're not the only ones struggling with it. I talk to industry folks all the time, and you know, they want to implement AI. They don't know how to. A lot of them don't. So putting out these students that are familiar with the uses in that industry or in that sector could really help businesses as well. So another question, I'm interested in receiving formal training in AI through coursework and other resources. 63% thought or said that was true. So they do want to know more. And my curriculum lacks adequate exposure to AI. So here's where it hits the road. As faculty, we have to retool ourselves for the future. And, you know, what does our curriculum look like? Are there ways that we can come together as a university and say, you know, this is our AI statement, or this is what we're going to do? Students who use AI for their coursework have an advantage academically. They were on the line about that one. My professors at WCU encourage the use of AI in coursework. And this was what was concerning to me. And again, this was last spring, so it's been a year ago. 84% said that this was false. So again, we have that connotation of where we're fighting against it instead of bringing it in and using it. Only 16% thought that was true. I'm actively seeking opportunities to learn more about AI, and they were on the line, but most a little bit more of an advantage to the true part there. So we should be the ones to provide these opportunities. And I'm skeptical about the benefits of AI in education. They thought that was true as well. They said, yes, they are. I see the potential for AI to solve complex global problems. And they didn't see that it was something that's the end all. You know, it can't solve everything. So they're seeing it more as a tool, like they should. And AI will become an essential part of most professions. This was concerning to me because I believe every profession will in some way use AI. And one guy I can remember in particular, and he had emailed me and he said, I really don't know why you're teaching AI in this class because I'm studying to be an EMT and we'll never use AI in my field. And I thought, you know, you use AI constantly when you're training because you're doing simulation activities with these, you know, mannequins and those kinds of things. So, and maybe there's this disconnect of what AI is and how it's used, but you know, it's important that we understand in all of the professions there's going to be some kind of part of AI. I worry about AI negatively affecting human creativity, and several people thought that was true. The majority. I have concerns about AI's long-term societal impact, and that was also true. Unregulated AI development may lead to unforeseen risks. Of course, that was true as well. AI will play a significant role in my future. So this was concerning to me because 63% thought it would be false. So I feel like there are some students that just look at it as like a quick way to get homework done. And then, you know, others maybe don't see the impact that it could have in their lives and don't really care to study on it and learn more to advance their careers. So as educators, what is the role for higher education moving forward? And in reality, student views on this question are likely skewed because they don't know enough about it. So what can we do? You know, we know we have this elephant in the room. So, you know, how can we use this? So the goal should be practical strategies for integration. It's going to be different for every class. You know, every teacher is going to use it a little differently, but we know that it can automate tasks. So students writing, you know, let's say you want them to write an essay. I do some assignments with essays, so I allow them to generate their outline using AI. And then I have them, you know, under each outline bullets, I'll say, okay, physically write some sentences under that bullet that you can think of just off the top of your head that might go with that section. So just having them start the outline and take off, you know, that helps them get their ideas on paper. And especially for engineers, because engineers are notoriously bad at communication. They can talk to you all day about what they're doing at work, but they cannot write it down. So written communication especially. So that it does help them to start getting those ideas on paper. AI also provides instant feedback. And as distance learners or distance instructors, you know, you might feel like you're at work 24/7. I know I do. Because when students are doing their work, as or their classwork, it's when they're off their, regular full-time job. So it's at odd hours. I've gotten texts and phone calls at 1 o'clock in the morning, and if I'm up, I'll answer it. But AI, we can use that to provide instant feedback for them. So if there's something that we approve, and maybe go in and, put our own feedback in these places and point students in those directions, then that can help them get the answer to their question a little bit quicker than, calling or texting or emailing us. AI can spark creativity. We're actually building a new engineering building, and we were all in the room throwing out some ideas of what we would like to have in our new building. And our IT guy in our department is sitting there typing in all of our ideas as we're saying them. And then it generates this picture of a building. And, it looks pretty close to what we had in mind. So it can spark some creativity, and it can do it quickly, but, you can't take all of what is generated by AI as the end all. So we have to know that whatever we generate, we still have to look it over, tweak it, make it our own. And we do have these challenges of plagiarism and over-reliance. I would kind of like to poll the audience here. How many of you check for AI as far as, maybe a writing assignment or something like that, where you can check it for AI? Anybody want to offer? So it's one of those things where it's really hard. And I've come to use several different strategies myself, because, if we don't use the tools, if we're not using ChatGPT or whatever else platform you want to use, then we don't know what it looks like when it generates those things. So one thing that I've started looking at, and I've got it in here in another slide, is look at the patterns. If you put 15 things into ChatGPT just to see what the output's going to be, you'll notice the patterns that ChatGPT likes to write to or do. So you can kind of spot some of those things when a student turns that in. Establish clear guidelines. Define acceptable AI use. I will go into my assignments now, and if I allow AI, I will put that in. I'll put a little brief paragraph about it in the assignment guidelines. Same thing in my syllabus. I'll put some kind of language about acceptable use of AI on certain assignments or in the class. And then, of course, discuss the ethics and integrity. What does it mean to you? And everybody will be different. Students have to get to know what each professor prefers before, or really on any assignment, or how the class is going to go, before they can be successful in that class. So, talk about that the first day. You're putting out the syllabus, you're talking about your expectations. It's good to implement the AI portion in that as well. So this was pretty interesting. When I compared, because I had a little spot on the survey where students could tell me what types of AI they were using. And whenever I compared, I went in, I think I used ChatGPT on this one, but I went in and said, okay, what is the most popular applications for AI? And this is what ChatGPT said. And then here is what the students said. So they're number one, and these are in order of how many students were using these. ChatGPT was number one, Google Gemini, and some of the others. And then it got down to where just a couple students were using some of these. And I had never heard of several of these. So probably from I don't know, cursor down. There's very few of those that I had heard of. So it doesn't hurt to ask students, you know, send me some things that you're working on and apps that you're using, because if we're going to stay ahead of them or at least equivalent with what they're using, then we need to use these things too. So here's the numbers, if you will. So about most of them had used ChatGPT. There were, I think, 39 students in this one, and the reason why I'm having trouble remembering exactly is because I'm still using this survey. I'm going to compare my numbers this year to my numbers last year and just see, how that trend goes. So this is a research still in progress. And as a university, we're looking at ways that we can implement training now. And I'm actually working with the professional development department and doing some things with them because of this survey. So basically, if we talk about the way AI is working and try to understand how we can make this work for us, we're looking at machine learning, neural networks, and then the natural language processing. So machine learning, and I have an example that I really like to use in my class. Excuse me. Where the students, they have, it's called the Teachable Machine, and I'll give you guys the link to it if you haven't heard of it. But they can hold up, like a picture of a car, and they're teaching the machine to recognize that car. So if they see a picture of the car, maybe the little guy on the app goes to the right. If they see a picture of a truck, maybe the little guy on the app goes to the left. So you can do voice commands or visual commands, and you're just teaching the machine. And the machine, of course, is whatever app or computer program that they're using. And then you can take that code and insert it into whatever you need, a game or a whatever you're using at the time. It'll write the code for you. And then, so if you had, a little gaming app, you could insert that into your gaming app code and it would do it for you. So that's one application, and it's really simple, and you don't have to be a computer expert or know how to code or anything to use that teachable machine. The neural networks and deep learning, those are the more advanced. And we're seeing, more of these every day come up. I just saw like 3 or 4 commercials for it as I was watching the Olympics this week. Everybody's coming out with their own platform now. Natural language processing. So it enables AI to understand and generate human language. I don't know if you guys have to deal with a lot of different students who maybe don't have English as their first language, but in schools, especially in the dual enrollment classes, and we're seeing a lot more dual enrollment classes come along in my region, but in the public schools, teachers are required to teach students in a language that they can understand. So if their first language is not English, then they're having to come up with tools to help students understand the work in their own native language. So tools like AI are very, very helpful. We have a lot of Russian and Ukrainian population that have just recently migrated to the area. So that is something that, maybe we weren't used to in the past. And now this has really helped those students take on, more assignments and be able to be successful rather than miss out on their learning in the public school system. So AI systems, they don't think, but they do put out patterns and correlations. Okay. And that's what I was talking about. If you look at some things, maybe one of the early on things that I noticed about ChatGPT is if it's trying to explain something, it will give three examples. So if you saw those three examples, and it'll do it in multiple paragraphs, but it'll give those same patterns of three examples, or there'll be a hyphen or something like that. So you can look for those patterns and know whether people are using AI. So the advice I give my students is, even if you're using AI to help you out, make it your own. Go in, change it, make it your own. Do your own research, because it's just like me telling them what to write down. They shouldn't trust me. They should look and make sure that what I'm telling them is correct. Come up with your own research and strategy to find out, what it means to you, and don't just take my word for it. All right, verify your information, and this is going straight into that. So fact check. Fact checking is a major concern. There are a few tools that I have down here. I guess you guys can see that. I'm not endorsing these. I'm just providing some options, so you can do some fact checking with AI. I have a few assignments where they do have to go and fact check, and I even tell them to fact check against another AI platform. So if they use Google platform, then they need to put it in ChatGPT and see if they come up with the same things. So they're doing more comparison. And I found too that AI will, if it doesn't know the answer, it kind of makes up an answer, or what we call hallucinate. And it has also made up the references. I've had some students, because I'll have them go back and say, okay, put this in and give me a reference for it. And the reference will just be made up because AI could not find something like that on the internet, I guess, to hook to, and especially in technical documents. So, have your students really double check and make sure that what they're seeing is real. Cross-check answers, use AI tools, built-in citation features, and we have to know, and you can see here, I've put a little example of the hyphenation. That's what you need to look for. Understand that AI is as reliable as the data it was trained on. So that big hyphenation there, you'll know that it was generated, or it could have been generated with AI. Yeah. So AI is not neutral, and I know that was one of the questions, and they thought that it could take away bias, but it's actually can amplify bias if we're not careful. And students should learn to recognize that the outputs can reflect cultural, gender, racial, or even socioeconomic biases. Same thing with their social media platforms. So AI works in that same way, and the algorithms can be programmed to work that way. Ask questions. Who built the AI? Look at the ethical guidelines for the AI development deployment. And these were just some quick things that talks about the future of AI and jobs. So in 2023 report, it estimated that 44% of the workers' core skills were expected to change within the next 5 years. And this was due to AI. So if you're in a class and you're talking to these students and letting them know, and I have some students that don't want to use AI. You know, they just don't want to have anything to do with it. But it's here. It's going to stay, and it's only going to get more involved in everything that we do. So these were just a few stats here to support those. So we can model responsible use, show how you use AI, be transparent, evaluate AI outputs critically, promote collaboration and innovation, address concerns and risks. Some things that I'm going to go a little bit further here. So AI and distance learning, I've got some examples. So yeah, this is what I was looking for. Example assignments. So if you're just trying to get students to, you know, dive in and know your expectations, this is a little post that I have them do, you know, at the beginning of the class. Instead of an introduction to themselves, they can provide a little introduction, but I said, you know, shake it up a little bit, ask them if they've used AI, and then have some conversation going about it. And you can learn a whole lot about a student just by reading their posts. So this one is a technical question example, but then as you go, you know, they're given their responses, and you know, I have your responses have to be so long and that kind of thing. So they actually have to be involved in the discussion. And I've learned a lot about, and they'll share a lot about their examples that maybe they wouldn't have shared if they weren't discussing it with another student. So it's a good way to see what's going on with them and get to know them a little better as well when you have 3 or 4 or 5 discussions, and then they just have to keep doing the discussions. So a little more than one there, or just, you know, a little more than one response. The Teachable Machine, this is one that I was talking about earlier. It's free. It's Google based, so you can click on it and you can use image, voice, or poses. It's really cool, but it's actually like machine learning. You know, it's like programming a robot or whatnot. And the more the machine sees it, the better at it that it gets. And when I'm grading these, I don't grade it if, you know, if they couldn't teach their machine, or if they didn't get where it was 100% perfect. I don't grade on that, but I do grade on their effort of what the input was. And, you know, I have them send me their link to their Teachable Machine, and I'll test it out and that kind of thing. Like I said, if it doesn't work 100%, not a huge deal, but I do see if they even tried it, because a lot of people don't even like to try it because they're afraid of the AI. So I'll leave it at this one. AI chatbots for 24/7 student support, automated tutoring and feedback tools, virtual teaching assistants, AI powered discussion moderation, transcription and captioning for lectures, personalized learning pathways, and tools to detect student engagement. And these are all that we can use for distance learning. And that's all I've got for you guys. I've got some references here if anybody's interested in those, but I would like to open it up to questions in the last few minutes, if anybody has questions. I appreciate you guys being here today. And of course, if you would like my PowerPoint here for the links, because this survey is linked into it as well. feel free to contact me and I'll be more than happy to send it to you.
Well, any questions for Amy or comments? There'll be a quiz on this survey.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. Could you revisit what you were explaining about the hyphen as an indicator of
So,
perhaps AI?
and this is just something that I noticed with Chat GPT, and I left this in here so I could show you guys. A lot of times, especially when it's a paper, the two things that I noticed the most was Chat GPT will repeat, it'll give three reasons for something every time. Whether it's what the weather looks like today, or why is that dog's hair red, or whatever it is, it will give the three reasons. And then it does a lot of hyphenated explanations. Like it'll say something, do a hyphen, and then do an explanation. So I've noticed the patterns, and I'm studying other platforms now. But I chose Chat GPT to study it first because that's what everybody said that they were using. So I have just went in and, asked students, hey, write this paper, do one of your own, but then write one with Chat GPT and let's compare it and let's see what it looks like. So in the comparisons, these are the things that I've noticed. So there's a lot of hyphenated things in a platform that's written by AI, or at least Chat GPT. Other things, I couldn't really tell whether it was a student or an AI, but these are just things that I'm looking at, not even with the AI checkers. This is just individual stuff that I've seen.
Thank you. I'm also a little confused about the AI checkers. These are tools to check to see if content was AI produced or
Just fact checking kind of thing. If you ask AI a question and you want to check on it, these were just quick little fact checking tools. Like I said, I don't necessarily even have used these. I've just went in and tried to find some fact checking tools that I could provide. I have used, I think it was this first one I have used, but I hadn't used a whole lot of these others.
okay, so they're not AI tools, but they can help to see if outputs are accurate.
Right,
AI.
right,
Okay, thanks.
right. Very good. Well, thank you guys for having me today.
Well, thank you for taking the time to join us. I appreciate it.
I've
And
enjoyed it.
hey, you're absolutely right. Don't assume that the info you get from an AI app is always accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And
We found many times it was not, especially with technical stuff.
yeah, you could be skating on thin ice.
That's right.
Well, anyway, thank you very much. It's a good way to end our day today.
Well, thank you.